like it just starting with her. The empty chair. It's 4 o'clock. I was gonna go get it. I'll be back. I'm gonna go get the kit. I'll just sit there for a minute. You can see people come. Hey, Marcia. Hey, Julie. Hey, Nina, Susan, Kay, Melanie, Shelly. How is everybody? We're getting ready to start here in just a minute. Love the top fans. Hi, Cindy. How are you? Hi, Dane, Tina. Everybody's showing up for love it. Hey, Pat. Kathy's watching. Oh, wow. We've got a big group of people here today. Waiting for Miss Kathy to come back. Hi, Gail. Hi, Carla. We love seeing the same group of people. You guys, we love that you keep showing up every time. Yay. Hello, Helena. Hi, Donna. See, I'm finally on this side of the so I get to see what Kathy sees when you guys are checking in. Oh, Linda, you made it. So you didn't miss anything. Hi, Cynthia. Hey, Mel. Mel always tunes in. Now I get to see what you see, Kathy.
I know, it's fun, isn't
Hi, Janet.
Yeah. I know, you get to say hi to everybody.
Oh, Mel's watching. And
Oh, here, I'll start.
You
I'll
go ahead
come
and
over
get
and
started,
start.
and then.
I'll start. Here, see if I'm in the, you just have
And
to
you
watch
can.
the picture. Okay, you see me?
I see you.
Hey.
I see how this camera
Hi,
works.
everybody. Okay, so we finally got back to quilting. A few more people in our shop, and Katie has gotten back to start doing some of our samples, and we just pulled this one off the line. And able to re-get the border print. So we have kits of the summertime.
Woohoo!
Yay!
Yay!
Yes.
Yay!
$79.95 includes the pattern. I love this fabric for Memorial Day, Labor Day,
4th of July.
It's summertime. So anyway, we have fat bundles, we have strip sets, we have charm packs, and we have layer cakes. We have it all.
Yay!
So,
Yay! Yay!
anyway,
Yay!
I just
So.
thought that was nice to have a new quilt as our backdrop today. That has nothing to do with what Pam is going to show you. Pam is going to go back. She's going to travel through the world of applique. So let's see. As we get enough people, we're going to swap places.
How many people are there? I couldn't see. Oh,
Here.
Okay. I'm learning something.
65 people.
Yay!
Yep, lots of you are in your seats. Good job, girls. We got 68 of you watching us. Isn't Sally's quilt so pretty? I know, Julie, I love it. Size is, you're asking me the hard questions, Linda. Let me see. One moment. Oh, Sally, it's your quilt that's hanging there. It's ready for binding. I'm going to send it home. And I got you another quilt kit cut out for you. So Mrs. You, Pam.
Oh, hi, Cynthia.
Quilt is 60 inches by 74, Miss Linda. Yeah, it's really, I love that quilt. I think it's a great summertime quilt, and I think it went together pretty easily. So we're finally getting some samples quilted. Kits are made. We're still opening on June 1st. We're still doing curbside pickup 10 to 4 the rest of this week. We are closed on Monday for Memorial Day. Yay! And then on June 1st, we're anticipating letting some customers back in the store with some, of course, and we'll let you know all about that. So anyways, good to see everybody, and I'm going to turn the stage over to Miss Pam.
Yeah.
All right.
Hello, everybody. So today what we're focus on is applique, and I didn't want to make it just embroidery, so we're going to kind of go through the evolution of applique. And for those of you, it's funny because when I teach classes, people aren't really sure. Some will say, what is applique? So applique is just adding one fabric on top of another fabric. So this is just a really cute, simple, easy thing to do. And so the machines have come so far today that I just kind of wanted to take you through the history of how we used to do things and how easy it is to do it now. So way back in time, and I'm talking about going way back, like when Kathy, probably before you even had your store.
22
Kathy.
years.
Yeah.
22 years.
So, anyways, when we used to do applique, it was all done by hand. So here's the quilt, and I don't really need to open up the whole thing, but this was applique. Do you want me to open it
I'll help you.
further?
I'll help
Okay.
you. We'll just hold it for a second.
Okay. So this was an applique quilt that I did, and it was finished in 1995. And I brought it in this morning, and Kathy said, I did that all by hand. And
The
I'm
rose
like,
assured, I did.
yes.
I did needle turn applique, the old fashioned way of the exact same blocks.
Exactly.
Yes.
So the old fashioned way.
Oh,
was-
this says low volume. Got to talk up. Speak
Okay.
up.
Sorry, we've got the camera facing one way, so sorry. But anyways, so if you did needle turn applique, you would actually cut a shape out, have it about an 1/8 inch bigger, and you would turn the whole thing under and then sew it by hand. And those of you that are in my class know I do nothing by hand. So when I first started doing applique, we actually cut our shape out on freezer paper. We ironed it to the wrong side of the fabric, and then we took a washable glue stick and we glued around the edge, and we actually turned the whole thing under to get the perfect shape. That's how I did the quilt that I just showed you. So when you did that, then you went around, and at that time, you used the blind hem stitch and you used clear thread in the top, and so it was called mock hand applique because it looked like it was hand applique, but it was really done on your sewing machine. And that's when I bought my first real machine. So I had just a machine before that just did a straight stitch and a satin stitch. So I purchased one that was able to do that stitch. And I did that quilt. I was so excited. The borders, everything was done that way. But it took so long. When you got finished, you then cut the back out so that you saw this part, and you added water so it dissolved the glue, and then you picked this out. So if any of you, Kathy, you're laughing. You know
I laugh.
that
That's just such
technique.
a painful technique. So
You know
painful.
that technique. So anyways, now we all do applique using our sewing machine. So we're going to get to embroidery here in a minute because I want to show you how much easier it's become. But when we want to do applique on our sewing machine, we can take a shape, any of these shapes, and you can either do a satin stitch around the edge or a decorative stitch, but the traditional stitch is, some people call it the buttonhole stitch, but most people call it a blanket stitch. So the blanket stitch, I'm going to do a little demo for you, and we're going to try to
gonna
make
put it-
this easy for you to
wanna put
do.
it over here?
I'm going to come over here, yeah. So, when you
Going to the
we're
chalkboard.
going to the chalkboard. Okay, so when you do a blanket stitch, the blanket stitch looks like this. So you all know what that blanket stitch looks like, okay? And I hated doing the blanket stitch because when I did the blanket stitch, I always had a random stitch go out this way. That happened to anybody?
Whoop. I've got to get
We
back
good?
over to your picture. There we are.
good?
Oh, there's the picture. There's
So
the random.
And so when I show blanket stitch in class, I always get this random one, how do I get rid of it? So I was at a seminar with Ricky Timms, it's probably been 5-6 years ago, and something that he said really struck me. So I'm going to explain blanket stitch, and then I'm going to show you both with a diagram and on the sewing machine how you can make the blanket stitch really easy. So basically, if you look up here, you have a stitch that's vertical and you have a stitch that's horizontal, okay? So when you're doing the blanket stitch, most blanket stitches go forward, back, forward, and then it goes to the left and back to the right. And this is where it bites the fabric. Comes down again, most of the time, forward, back, forward, and it bites the fabric and comes back over. Now, you need to find out what blanket stitch you're going to use on your machine. So the machines that we have today have several different types of blanket stitch that you can use. So some of them just come down once and then it goes over and back. It comes down once and it goes over and back, okay? So the problem that you have is people don't know when to pivot. So here's the thing, if we're coming down and we're doing forward, back, forward, left, right, think of this all as one stitch and this all as one stitch. So when we're coming down, so now I'm going to come to something that looks like this. We're going to use an open toe foot.
Look at Pam's open toe foot happens to be a little glitter vinyl. That's her open toe foot of her sewing machine.
Okay, So when we're doing this, we're going to go forward, back, forward, and then we're going to go left, right. Forward, back, forward, left, right, okay? So, but when we go to do a curve, when we go to do a curve, we want our fabric to be straight down. So this forward, back, forward should be a vertical stitch. And then we'll pivot when we do the left, right. And then we're gonna pivot again. Forward, back, forward, pivot, left, right. Okay, so what happens here is, when you're doing forward, back, forward, think of that as a vertical stitch, and you cannot pivot during that part of it. Because what happens is if I go forward and I pivot, when I go back, it's gonna be like this. So the forward, back, forward is all one stitch, no pivot. The left, right is one stitch, no pivot. So when you do forward, back, forward, and you go left and then you pivot, you get this. If you're at the bottom of a square and you're coming down, so you're doing forward, back, forward, left, right, and I actually say that. Nobody talks to me when I'm doing blanket stitch, because if you get lost in the forward, back, forward, that's when you always make a mistake. So I literally say forward, back, forward, left, right. Forward, back, forward, left, right. Now when you get to the bottom here, forward, back, forward, we need to pivot, but when we pivot, the correct way is to pivot at a 45 degrees so that this goes up here and comes back down, and then you pivot again so we're on this part of it. So I'm going to do a demo on the sewing machine now to show you how that works. So Kathy, if you want to come down. Now, when you go, let me grab this.
Okay.
Okay, so I am on my baby lock machine, and I know that this goes forward, back, forward. Well, two things you always want to do. You want to make sure that you have some kind of a stabilizer underneath here, because a blanket stitch is a decorative stitch. And whenever we use a decorative stitch, we want to make sure that we keep it from puckering or shrinking in or any of that. The other thing that you want to do is you want to bond your applique to the fabric. So I have used the Steam-A-Seam 2 on here. You can use Heat and Bond Light, Wonder Under, any of those. And the reason why we're doing this is raw edge applique, so you can see that this is raw right here. And I have fused it in place, but since I fused it in place, if it washes, this isn't going to come off. But what I want to do is cover those raw edges so that you can't see that this is really a raw edge. So the goal is to bring this under my machine. And what I like to do is I like to drop my needle right in the corner where I'm starting, okay? And if you add a tie-off function, you've got to take into consideration that. So most tie-offs are 3 stitches. I'm going to leave the tie-off off right now, but you can see that I have stabilizer under here. I've got my fabric fused down, and I'm using the open toe foot C. So now when I put this down, I'm literally going to say forward, back, oops, we bumped the machine.
Oh, sorry, my fault.
Technical difficulty here, so let me cut this and start over. Sorry, Kathy. I'm not used to having a camera right where I'm trying to sew, so, okay, so I'm gonna—
Many hands are in here.
I'm gonna put it down right in the corner, and I'm gonna go, you can see the machine going.
Are you saying it? I don't hear your mantra.
No, I was looking at, okay. I wanted to make sure I had the thing going. And I tried, okay, forward, back, forward, left, back, forward, left, right. Forward, back, forward, left, right. Now I stopped right there. So if I'm talking to someone, okay, now I'm on a forward. So here's forward. Now I'm gonna cut my thread. And if you ever cut your thread, you need to reselect the stitch on your screen so it starts back at the beginning. But I wanna show you when I get down to the corner. Just move that out of your way too, Kathy. So if you Okay, so here is forward, back, forward, left, right, forward, back, forward, left, right. To myself, you guys don't want to hear me. Now here we go. Forward, back, forward. Now I can pivot. I need to have that pivot function on too. Okay, and then it's going to go up, and now I can pivot again. Forward, back, forward. Okay, and on a straightaway, you can go really fast. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this, but this is what you want your blanket stitch to look like. Now, I personally don't like the width. Most of the time on your sewing machines, the width of your pivot is 3.5, and I like to turn that down to about 2.5 because I like it really tiny. Real quick, I just want to show you on a curve. When I go to do my curve, I'm going to lower my foot there, okay? Now, do you see how right now I'm coming straight at me? So this is a vertical stitch, so I want the fabric in a vertical position, so I'm going to go, that's my tie off, forward, back, forward, then I can pivot, left, right, forward, back, forward, left, right.
Whoop, we're looking at the ceiling.
Okay, you got me?
Wait a second.
Hold on, Kathy's
One
trying to...
moment. Rotate your phone, I know. Sorry, technical difficulty.
Here we go.
Wait a second. One moment. Here, let me pull this out.
Okay.
I'm in a holder that's not cooperating. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
All right.
So whenever you're coming at you, you want it to be straight.
They want to know what stabilizer you're using.
Good question. So you do not need to buy the stabilizer that we use for embroidery, okay? We sell two products called Totally Stable. One is not fusible and the other one is. So I've got a sample of each. This is the fusible kind and this is the non-fusible. So back in the day when I first learned to do any kind of decorative stitch, I actually used adding machine tape. Now, we don't recommend sewing on paper because paper dulls your needle. So if you buy a stabilizer like this, it's not the kind that you're buying for your machine embroidery. You need something much more sturdy for machine embroidery. For this, you just need what we sell on the bolt, and you know, it's about $2.99 a yard. So, okay, I'm just gonna do this curve one more time. So when it's coming at me, it's when I'm doing the forward, back, forward, and then you pivot. So I've pivoted so it's exactly at a 90-degree angle, left, right, and then I'm pivoting it again so it's straight at me, forward, back, forward, and then I pivot so I can go left, right. And that's what you're doing the whole time around. It's just if you think of it as the forward, back, forward, never pivot, left, right, never pivot. If you do that, you get that random stray stitch.
Nicely done, Miss Pam.
So, some of you that have embroidery machines would say, why would I ever want to learn that? Well, there are a lot of quilters out there, and so this is a class that we taught a while back. This is a large applique, and this you can't do. There's no pattern for it on an embroidery machine. And I love this. So I'm like, I want to do this. I have to learn how to do some kind of applique stitch. So this was all done using that forward, back, forward, because once I learned it, I wanted to applique everything. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Cherry Goudry. Kathy, you know, what's her company's name?
Cherry Blossom Quilts.
Cherry Blossom Quilt.
Yes.
This
one's so cute. I loved when you did that. I still love this one. This one's so cute.
Here's another example of something that's really large. And so you can't do something this large with an embroidery machine, but this is all the forward, back, forward, left, right. Now, on the snowflakes that Kathy's showing you, I used white thread because I don't want to be emphasized. Sometimes, like you might want something outlined, so you might want to use a contrasting thread. A contrasting thread is going to show. I didn't think I was good enough to be able to do it, so I didn't, but I'm looking at this and I'm like,
That was pretty good. That looked pretty good what I saw.
So, and this is another quilt.
I love
I'm sure
this
you
one
guys
too.
saw this hanging here.
I love this one too.
But again, I'm telling you, once you start doing this, it's really therapeutic to sit and just say forward, back, forward, left, right. So all those teeny tiny little pieces.
You can see all her stitching. You can see all that blanket stitch. There we go. Look at that. Forward, back, forward, left, right.
Yeah, and although it takes a lot of time, it's a whole lot less time than it took when I was gluing those little templates. So that brings us to kind of current day applique. So I'm gonna go talk about this real quick. So a lot of you guys, ladies, you have the AccuQuilt dies. So this is 2 of the AccuQuilt dies. And so if you have an AccuQuilt cutter and you have shapes and you want to do applique, but you don't have an embroidery machine, you have to figure out some way to hold these down, okay? So what I learned from doing the AccuQuilt was that most of their shapes, they now have free embroidery downloads, which I didn't know that before. So if you don't have an embroidery machine, you're going to want to do like a blanket stitch, or you could do a zigzag stitch or a feather stitch, any of those things to hold the edge down. But this was actually done using the free download. So for the circle and the flower, you can actually, it's free, you just go to their website. And so what it has is a satin stitch, it has the blanket stitch, and it has kind of a more decorative, feathery, it's a stitch. So it's a way that you can use your AccuQuilt, but not have to go in and do it on the sewing part of your machine. You can do it on the embroidery part of your machine. Now, because this is an AccuQuilt, you pre-cut your shapes, right? And since we pre-cut our shapes, we used a layer of some kind of bondable fabric, be it Wonder Under. I really like Steam Seam 2 because it's sticky on one side. You can position it before you iron it down, or your heat and bonds. And so what this does is it just gives you a placement stitch. You take the shape, you lay it on here, iron it in place so it's not moving, and then it goes back and it does the finishing stitch. And so the finishing stitch in this case is a satin stitch, a blanket stitch, and then this fancy stitch that they have. So that was kind of fun. So if you don't have, the AccuQuilts, if you don't have an embroidery machine, you're gonna have to choose one of your decorative stitches on the machine. If you do have an AccuQuilt cutter and an embroidery machine, you can go online and get those free downloads, okay? But there's a the Baby Lock has out. So I know most of you have heard like the Destiny or the Altair or the Meridian. And what those allow us to do is I took an AccuQuilt shape, but instead of taking their download into my iQ design, and I added the detail of this plus quilted it. And
how fun.
This was a little frog shape. And the little frog shape, again, I just chose a chain stitch on this one. But again, you guys know I don't like to do anything by hand. So this just allowed me to bring it up, digitize it in my machine, and be able to stitch it out. So if you have a Destiny, you can go in and you can actually create your own appliques. So the Baby Lock, they're top of the machines. They have the ability to make an applique. Anything that you can draw, you can turn into an applique. So on the Baby Lock Destiny and on the Altair, your choices are basically the chain stitch. There is a satin stitch, okay? But if you go to the Solaris, you have 15 possibilities that you can use.
How fun.
So, and this is the largest hoop with it as well. Okay, real quick, you're thinking, why would I do an applique? What would I do with it if I were just doing flowers or something like that? The easiest pattern in the world is county lines. And there's county lines and city blocks. And I think this
is city blocks. Yep.
So if you had a fabric that you really wanted to showcase, one thing that you can do is in the big block, you can use one of those applique shapes, something that you can create, something that you can create yourself. You can buy a pattern, but it's just a cool way to feature your applique shapes in a quilt. Okay, now if you're doing just machine embroidery, you're gonna pull up your applique design, and I just wanna show you real quick how to hoop. We don't actually have to do a stitch out, but I didn't cover this last week when we talked about stabilizer, but I'm gonna take my stabilizer fabric, and what I like to do is loosen my hoop, and I like to take it and kind of cradle it like this and push it in. Make sure my hoop's loose enough. Okay, now here's what people want to do. They want to do this, and they want to pull on the fabric. And I went to a Catholic school, and that's when you get the ruler on the hand. So what you want to do is make sure that you don't pull on the fabric, because when you pull the fabric, when you pull on it, you're distorting the fabric. And so think about it. If you stretch something and then you embroider on it and then you let go, what happens? It all just gets sucked in.
Creates lots of puckers.
Lots of puckers.
And yes, Kay, QB does carry all the stabilizers she's mentioning.
Correct.
Yep. Yes.
Okay. So what I
Oh,
like
last
to
weekend this. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I like to push in the hoop, and if I don't get it flat the first time, just unhoop it, straighten it out, and hoop it again. Usually the second time you push it in, it's going to be much more flat, but you actually want a little bit of give in here. So I'd rather have my fabric a little less tight than too tight. Now, when you go on an embroidery machine, for those of you who have never done an embroidery on an embroidery machine, I'm just going to go through how it works. So this little guy here, what it's going to do is it's going to do a placement stitch, and I just put my fabric on. So let's say we're doing like a little, I don't know, horse or something like that. It's just gonna stitch out the horse. I'm gonna put my fabric on, it tacks it down, I cut it real close, and it goes back and does the finishing stitch. It's that easy. Now, the only other thing I wanted to say was there was someone who asked in last week's video, how would you hoop a bib? And this is a little burp cloth, and it's got nap on it. So I would use, to answer your question, because I do go back and read what you guys say, your comments are very helpful to me, but I would hoop a piece of, and I've got, this is the perfect stick. Can you see how sticky it is?
It is very sticky. Hey, do you know what that butterfly pattern was, Pam?
It was part of the Anita Good design.
It was Anita Good design.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it was an Anita Good design. Okay.
And that quilt is older,
Yes,
but Anita Good designs, those designs I think are all still
I think so,
available.
too.
Yeah.
I think it's called Antique Butterflies.
Yeah, sounds right.
Okay, now this is perfect stick, but I would actually use Aqua Mesh as Aqua Mesh Plus because I want to wash it away. But this is what I was talking about yesterday or last week. You can't hoop a bib. I don't want to hoop this. Let me get a color so you can see it. I don't want to hoop this because I'll get a burn on here. Also, it's very hard to hoop because you can only spread your hoop so far. So to answer that question, if I wanted this little design here, and let me go back to the pink one, I know that this is the center part of my hoop. And so what I would do is just lay this on here like this, getting it as centered as best I could. So, you know, I would do one of these things where I'd fold it and lay it on here and add my topper, stitch it out, and wash it away. So again, applique is so easy. It's easy to do by your machine. I don't recommend doing it by hand, although it's beautiful. I just don't have that kind of patience. But on the machine, just doing that forward, back, forward, knowing when to pivot. And like I said, if you really love applique, you need to get yourself an embroidery machine.
Absolutely. Hallelujah!
So easy on
Yes.
there.
Julie says, Sister Pam, I hear you.
So, I don't know if anybody has any questions.
I don't know if there were any other questions. I think people found it very informative. Did you guys like it? Thumbs up for Pam. Heart, heart, heart. Send her love, 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 love. Libby says, yeah, yeah.
Yay, yay, yay.
Yes.
So, yeah, so I just kind of wanted to give you guys something that I know a lot of you are at home with nothing to do. You're asking for things to do. Do some applique and put it in.
Oh, you're getting lots of hearts now. I'm feeling the love. Heart, heart, heart. Okay.
So,
All right. So we will see you next week. next Wednesday.
Yeah, 4 o'clock.
Yes,
4
we
o'clock.
will be closed Memorial Day for curbside and everything. I'm loving all the hearts. You guys are rocking the hearts. That's making Pam's feeling that. She's gonna love that.
Thank you.
Yes, and then I don't know. Do we have the bibs that they can?
We probably will have to order them. I don't
We
think have them
we
in-
can get the bibs.
Yes.
Don't have them in stock. Well, we'll see you guys all later. So good to see you.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, and it's on YouTube if you want to find it later.
Yeah.
Bye.